Friends, 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city.
Is there anything that Lionel Messi is better than you at?
It's opinions. I respect your opinions. Maybe in your opinion Messi is better than me, but in my mind I'm better than him.
I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me. Oh, you matter what? Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso. Just doing me, everything is on me. Oh, you matter what? Told her if it's all me, everything is on me. Gon' back it up. Matter what? Told you I'ma do me. Why you hating on me? It's not adding up. I do roll like a Mack truck. Country heart, I might cop a farm and go act up. Lot of scars, I was cold hearted, now I'm back up. Keep it real, I do this once a month. I don't rap much. I just hit the money and go stack up. Only buy cars and get tatted up. That other bull, it don't matter much. You only climb me, I put the ladders up. No fault, I done doubled up on the workload. I think I fell in love with the bankroll. Pray up, get money, then we lay low. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me. Oh, you matter what? Add it up,
Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, the home of Rhodri Giggs on football, brought to you by Four Sigmatic Coffee. It is the greatest thing I have ever tasted. Four Sigmatic is a sciencey way of saying really good for you. They've turned the planet's most astounding nutrient-dense ingredients into things that you will love every single day. Four Sigmatic helps bring people elevated wellness with the most nutrient-dense ingredients. They started back in the happiest country in the world, Finland. Their founders were Finnish grandparents, brewed mushrooms when they couldn't get coffee during World War II due to shortages. But it turns out organic coffee plus functional mushrooms like chaga are not only delicious, but they kick off the day beautifully. Ever since, they've searched exhaustively for studies to get the best of the best for the ingredients for Four Sigmatic, and boy, oh boy, does it taste good. As I've said before, I have one cup at about 10 o'clock in the morning as I'm starting to flag, and it keeps me going all day, keeps me sharp, keeps me switched on. And you can use the code AceNation, get yourself a nice little discount, whether it's a subscription or a one-off payment, one-off purchase. But we thank them for sponsoring the channel as always. But just as we wait for some latecomers before we talk about football, there's lots to discuss. We'll do the Super 6 prediction week. So I've had a nightmare this week. So we're obviously raising money for charity. I've had a massive lead over Rhodri in recent weeks, but Franco Rankmore came top of the league this week with 14 points. Paul Cartwright is top overall with an impressive 346. But how is the battle with Rhodri going? Well, I forgot my predictions for the midweek round, but luckily, Rhodri has done what Man City seem to keep doing and not being able to capitalise on Arsenal when they drop points, just like that. Rhodri only scored a measly 4 points, which means I'm still a massive 29 points clear. The next round is 3 o'clock Saturday. Make sure you get your predictions in. We'll do ours at the end of the show. And there we go. So just before I bring in Rodders.
Yeah, it was one goal away. One goal. Each game from getting full score.
Yeah.
And then the City one. Just
to rub it in. Just wanted to quickly say, Will Melius, who does the Super 6 and organises all that, and I got a project coming up with him on a separate channel as well, which we'll talk about soon. I wanted to say congratulations to him and his lovely missus. It just got engaged. Shout out to them. 13 years he's been waiting to do that, so I think it's about time he got on with it and popped the question. But there we go. Well then, about time. Rodders, how are you, my friend? You good?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate, yeah. A
All
little technical glitch, but
it's all good.
Oh,
Professional, ain't you? Got a backup every time.
I've got a couple of backups, so
So look, we will talk about United and Barca, but what I'm conscious of is obviously it's going to go out of date real quick because they're playing straight after we play. So we'll talk about it a little bit at the end. We'll sort of predict it. And I'd rather focus. We're going to preview the Carabao Cup final in a bit of detail a bit later on. But first and foremost, we'll talk about some of the stories and results of the week so far and last weekend. It's been very eventful, to say the least. But before we get into the actual football, wanted to just sort of say, pay tribute really to one of in my opinion, the greatest commentator to come out with a British game. John Motson sadly passed away. He was literally the voice of football for me till he retired, but particularly as a kid before Sky and stuff like that, listening to the radio, watching it on BBC or whatever, absolute legendary. And in my opinion, also the best commentator around. And I'll ask you this quickly. Obviously, I would prefer to sort of focus on John Motson, but actually just how good he is shown even more so, I think, by the commentators which you get on Sky at the moment. They're very sort of an amazing last minute winner will go in, and the commentators that you'd think has gone out for a throw in, but the way John Motson was able to describe the game, it was just you got into it so much and you felt the emotions of the game as it was going on.
Yeah, there's only certain amount of commentators I can really think going back, like Brian Moore, John Motson, sorry. And Martin Tyler, obviously, but yeah, sad. So much research he did for games and stuff. He always knew the answers to certain questions or certain players. Yeah, one of the very, very best. And sad. Like I was saying before we come on air, didn't realize he was 77. Thought he was older than that, but yeah, so many good memories of John Motson. And sad day for football.
Indeed, mate, indeed. And funny enough, what I was referring to with the Sky commentators at the moment, I feel like they're really, it does feel like they're very I can't think of the word, but just really monotone, just even if something like a last minute goal, even Martin Tyler, mate. I've watched some clips this week of Rooney's overhead kick against Man City and all these different Aguero scoring.
Was Rooney!
Yeah.
No, was that the volley?
No, he did it. I think he did pretty much the same, similar with both, really. But even Aguero scoring that last minute to win the title, all these different moments. Martin Tyler was a big part of that. When you look back at it, but some of the games I've watched with him this year, he doesn't seem to have the same enthusiasm in his voice as he did.
Maybe that's down to his age, doing too many games.
Well, I was going to say maybe has he damaged his voice maybe over the years by being so excitable, and you never know, do you? But
no,
I've certainly noticed the difference with him, and I think probably because he's set such a high standard for it, mate. You mentioned those three names: John Motson, Martin Tyler, Brian Moore. They are the guys, aren't they, for British football? And I think. I'm trying to think if there's any others which really sort of newer ones, which kind of I think might be the future of it. I don't like a lot of the new pundits, and
I think Ali McCoy's is really good.
Yes, Ali McCoy's, but he's more he's the colour commentator.
He's obviously the ex-pro, but
in terms of commentary, I used to like Sam Matterface before he went on.
Yeah, I was going to say Sam Matterface, but there's no one that really sticks out.
No,
like John Motson did.
It's funny, right?
Like Brian Moore did, like Martin Tyler does. There's a lot of like Darren Fletcher, Sam Matterface. There's just a lot that are all more or less the same.
Yeah, they sound very similar, don't they?
And there's a couple of women that do a very good job. Well, there's some women that, but you get that with men as well.
Who's the one who's always joking with Carragher and Mika Richards? Kate, she does a lot of the American channels. She's really good.
Okay, Abdu.
Yeah, I think she's really good. I quite like her. But
she's like one of the lads. Even though she's very good looking, she's like one of the lads. She has banter. She talks multiple languages, so she's very clever. So yeah, you have good hosts as well. I like Kelly Slater.
Dave Jones as well.
I like Kelly Slater. I think she's obviously grown up around the football background, so she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Do you know Sam Matterface, when he used to do just the talk sport commentaries, I thought he was outstanding. And I thought he would be the next guy to kind of be the voice of football in this country. But since he's been doing ITV and the World Cups and that, I actually don't enjoy his stuff as much. I don't know whether he's changed it for TV.
I don't mind Matterface. I just thought he definitely had work done. Do you see him 10 years ago?
Yeah, he's definitely had something.
You look like Screech. He looks like totally different.
It was Darren Fletcher. I don't mind. I got to say,
Fletcher,
but you are right. They're all kind of like they all sound the same. If that makes sense, they haven't got their own style or personalities. Like Brian Moore, John Motson, Martin Tyler, all kind of like the voice of football for us British fans.
But
but actually, they all had their individual style.
You've got to give these commentators time because these were doing it for 40 years, weren't they? So.
Yeah, yes, of course. And maybe, back before we were around, when John Motson and these guys were starting out, maybe they weren't as...
The old school commentators were the best. Remember the old rugby union commentator? What was his name?
Bill Beaumont was one, wasn't he?
No, not Bill Beaumont. It was an old commentator that did the Six Nations on the weekends. It was an icon. I can't remember his name. That's going to do my head in now. But I remember you just say certain stuff. Remember, was it Forburn? Remember the ginger?
Cliff Forburn. The fullback for Wales.
Yeah, he took a kick. It was just on over the halfway line and onto the side, and it was like in the 80s. I remember him hitting it, and he was going boof, and just the way he spoke and I can't remember his name. That's gonna do me. And hopefully someone will remember it. An old rugby union. Commentator at the BBC. I can't remember his name. As soon as you say it, I'll know. Anyway,
the thing is, the best commentators are the ones which capture not just what's going on, in terms of the action, but it's the emotion of it.
Yeah.
So like,
they know what to say right at the right time.
Yeah, and sometimes you can say too much, and I think
Clive Tilde's not bad. Wasn't bad.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I think sometimes some of the newer commentators, maybe it's because it's a bit of nerves. They're getting to grips with the, doing it more often than they have done perhaps in the last 10 years. Maybe they say too much.
Yeah, no, true. I think Clive Tildes is more like United. Remember Clive Tildes?
Like in the 90s and like ITV's Champions League coverage that was, wasn't it?
No, but that Champions League final, mate, with name on the trophy.
He just said
Solskjaer's won it.
Solskjaer's won it.
Yeah.
Sheringham!
Yeah, Sheringham. Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah. It's just you remember it.
You'd literally you try and I'm sure you try and slip that final in every show, just like in some context. You can always find context for it.
Something that'll never be forgotten, pal.
Oh, mate, I gotta say, like even as someone who's not a United fan, that was the greatest football moment that I watched live ever.
That whole year, I probably missed 2 games.
Must have been special, mate.
Barcelona, even coming out, we were so drained. It was like you think people were shouting and singing. There was none of that. It was just dead silent. Everyone just like head down as if fuck me. Did you believe that just happened?
It was mental, like because it was like it wasn't even like 85th minute and 90th minute. It was like 92nd and 94th or something. And like after the first goal went in, the Bayern players didn't even want to get up and take the kickoff.
No, but you don't understand. That game was a massacre. Bayern Munich hit the post, hit the bar. Oh, they should have won 4-0 easily.
Yeah, they thought they'd won, hadn't they?
It was that year. You knew when things were going your way, especially the Arsenal game, the semi-final. Keane getting sent off, then missing a penalty last minute, and Atkins scoring that goal. It's just a mad year.
Look, John Motson done 50 years of commentary. Like he did 10 World Cups, 10 Euros, 29 FA Cup finals.
I mean, some of the stories he's got, because he'd have been around like Pele and Maradona and stuff like that.
Like I know it's difficult to say because we're paying tribute to the man and he's just passed away, obviously. But like, in your opinion, is John Motson the best out of the sort of 3 or 4 that we just picked out?
By far.
Yeah, he's. I remember
his coats, his sheepskin coats. Being in certain places when it was freezing, it was snowing. You know, these FA Cup goals, this Ronnie Radford. Was it John Motson, Ronnie Radford?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
For Hereford. Oh, yeah, it's just so many.
No, it's Zidane getting sent off when he headbutts Materazzi as well.
There's so many.
And like when he commentated on the Zidane one, and Zidane obviously retired, didn't he, after that game? Everyone knew he was going to retire, and he's headbutted Materazzi, and you can feel the disgust and disappointment in John Motson's commentary. I think he says something like, "Oh, that's a disgrace," and like you can feel that he's not only commentating on the moment, but he's also disappointed that a great player's finished his career with such a controversial moment. And I think that shock of the disgraceful behavior or whatever, that brings the viewer into it. Like you felt that at the same time, didn't you? Like you felt, oh my God, he's retiring, and he's just headbutted him.
Proper student of the game as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, proper. And I'm glad that when he retired, I think it was Palace and someone, West Brom possibly, they gave him like a plaque, and he went out on the pitch after the game, and the crowd gave him a proper send off, like, because he definitely deserved that. Right, we got loads to talk about, mate, in the next 40 minutes or so. Before we get to Cardiff and Borough and the Championship, which I do want to touch on, Cardiff are on fire. They've won 2 games in a row. I want to talk about Liverpool because do you remember I said to you after the first Brighton game, they lost 3-0. I think it was a cup game. And I said to you, Joel Matip looks like he wouldn't get into a Parkside as a central defender. He looks awful, mate. The way I know. I mean, their defense generally just parted like the Red Sea on Tuesday. Never seen anything like it, mate.
For 2 years ago, he was the best. Now, you can't be the best centre half ever to betray the Premier League. Just doing it for a year or 2 years.
And to be fair,
dropped off a cliff.
Yeah, to be fair to Carragher, do you see the video of him, or like a clip of him talking about it afterwards? And he interviewed Van Dijk a couple of weeks back, and he said Van Dijk had like joked around with him, saying, "Yo, you wouldn't get in the defense now," to Carragher, and Carragher was like, "I would take his place now," because he has been awful. But like Joe Gomez, like Reece has just said in the chat, he's the most overrated defender there's been, and like for years, Liverpool fans been telling me how Joe Gomez is this. He should be in the England squad or whatever, and he should be playing international football. And I just don't see it at all. The only defender in their group, which I think he's a fucking player, is the Scottish guy, Robertson. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is quality going forward. I think defensively, he's an absolute shambles. And if you're asking me, if I'm picking a team, I'd rather have a fullback who's all right at going forward, but is absolute quality in defence. Obviously, you'd rather have a bit of both, but if I've got to choose, I'd rather have someone who can defend, because you've got wingers and you've got midfielders.
That's why Reece James plays for England, because he could do both.
Yeah, exactly that.
Trippier, he's reliable.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Yeah, and Trippier's got the dead ball, which obviously Trent Alexander's got. They've got big problems.
He's a Dennis Irwin Trippier. He's at 8-9 every week.
They got real big problems, mate, because even when when you look at the 2 goals they scored, you know, you've got the one is a mistake by the keeper, so that's lucky. The other goal, I guess you can say they worked well, the first goal, but like, all right, they started well for 10 minutes and they've been better the last couple of games in the build up to that game. But the Newcastle game, mate, if Pope hadn't got sent off, I fully believe Newcastle would have at least drawn that game. Newcastle absolutely battered them, mate. But they were down to 10 men. And especially the way Liverpool set up and play, if they've got that extra man, it's very difficult for teams to get at them. And Madrid, they're no mugs. As much as I've been saying, like, the Spanish league is just not what it used to be. Like, that Vinicius Jr. is quality, scored 2 fantastic goals. Benzema, you know, arguably the best centre forward in Europe alongside Lewandowski over the last 15 years or 10 years or whatever. They got a couple of really good midfielders in there. You know, but like we've talked about Liverpool's age in midfield, mate. Modric, about 45, with about 70 minutes, ran through the middle of their midfield as if he was 22 and a winger. He was like your bloody brother, just weaving in and out of them all, leaving them on the floor. And Modric is about 40. Embarrassing, mate. Honestly, and I know like proper Liverpool fans, not like the social media fans, will say Klopp has done enough to deserve to stay. But if they keep losing, because they were banking on the Champions, make no mistake, mate, they were banking on the Champions League this year now, because they ain't going to get in the top 4. So they're not in the Champions League, which will make it more difficult for them to sign the players they want to go. Like, will Jude Bellingham still want to go there? As been reported in various places that he supposedly wants to go and play for Klopp. Will he want to play for Klopp that much that he misses out in the Champions League? I don't know. Other players, particularly, foreign players, like, do they want to drop out of the Champions League for a year? Depends on a variety of things, age and wages and stuff like that. Like, I think they got massive problems, mate, because I think they need at least 2 midfielders. I think they need at least 2 centre-backs, and they probably need a striker and then a couple of other players on top of that. And do they have the money for it, is the ultimate thing.
Oh, no, I totally agree. This is why, as we discussed last week, it's better to do it when you're on top.
Yeah.
Because when you start doing it on the decline, it's a lot harder. This is why we talked about last week with Alex Ferguson. He was so good at it. You've got to identify it. And Pep Guardiola's not bad at it too. You've got to identify it. And when you win, that's when you strengthen. They won the league by a cancer last year. And they bring in Haaland.
Yeah.
And a couple others. So, yeah.
We'll talk about City, mind, as well. They brought in Haaland, but they don't play to Haaland's strengths at all.
No,
which is bizarre to me.
No, but he's still the leading goal scorer by far. And
oh yeah, of course he is.
He's it'll take time. Sometimes it's the same thing with players coming to United. Some good players fit in and hit the ground running. Some don't, and it takes time. Especially when they're young, i.e., Anthony, Sancho.
Yeah,
big
Ronaldo.
Club, big club, Manchester United. Ronaldo was straight away, mate. First game against Bolton, he tore him apart.
Yeah, but it was very like one good game, one. Yeah, there was a bit of frustration.
You still get bums off seat though, mate. He was like, whoa, flipping heck, whoa. You haven't seen none of that. You've seen a little bit of that for Man City, but it was every game, Ronaldo. The first game, I remember it clearly. They were down. He's come on, and he's run someone ragged, and I mean ragged, and totally changed the game. And he did that all the time. But it was all the tricks and the diving and they kicked that out of him. His own teammates kicked that out of him. So, but yeah, it's not easy, especially when there's elite teams spending a lot of money. United, City, Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal. You've got to keep on top of it.
Well, we've talked about in recent weeks, haven't we, that like the next few years could end up being absolutely mental in terms of the amount of money available to teams to spend in the Premier League.
There you go.
Like Newcastle got a bottomless pit, which they haven't really dipped into too much so far. You're gonna have if the Qataris get United, they've got a bottomless pit. You've got City, you've got a bottomless pit. You've got Chelsea seemingly just going to keep trying to sign everyone.
No, but you're saying it's a bottomless pit. We'll do it illegally within our means.
They haven't been charged. They haven't been found guilty yet, mate. Come on.
I wasn't. I was just saying what I was saying. You assumed something. No, I was just saying do it legally.
James,
you immediately put City. That's your fault.
Right, okay. My assumption was wrong that you were referring to Man City. I apologise.
Well, that's an easy assumption to make.
Indeed. James Costley says, if Klopp was to go, who would Liverpool look to bring in? And I think that's the issue, isn't it? There's no one really which stands out and you're like, that's the guy. I mean, maybe like Xavi or someone like that from Barca. Or what about this then, mate?
And you have to get the right manager. Yeah. You can't just bring in a name. You have to bring in the right manager.
What about this then? Apparently Conte and Levy don't get on very well. What if Conte was to leave Tottenham at the end of the season? would Liverpool consider then, while striking while the iron's hot and bringing Conte in for Klopp? And by the way, I will say, I think that would be a mistake. I think Klopp is a better manager, and I think if they give Klopp the money to rebuild, he will eventually get him back to the thing.
Conte won't go to United for the same reason.
Liverpool.
Conte won't go to Liverpool for the same reason why United didn't want him. Doesn't stick around long enough. These clubs are historic clubs. They tend to give the managers a long time when they've got the right manager. And I think Conte wouldn't be the right manager.
Well, like I said, I think like Pep, if Man City get charged and Pep goes, Liverpool try and get him. But no, I don't think that's realistic. But like no one really sticks out.
That's not no.
You got like Ancelotti at Madrid. I wouldn't have thought he's going to go anywhere.
No.
You've got Xavi, maybe Zidane, yeah. Who's the Bayern
Diego
manager?
Simeone's always names popped up. He'd be a very good fit for Liverpool.
Would Liverpool fans, after years of witnessing Klopp style football, be happy to play that? Like you saw how they reacted to Roy Hodgson and similar guys. Not comparing it exactly, but it's a similar in terms of it's quite rigid, quite organised.
Goes back to the old saying, winning masks a lot of things. So he'd have to win.
Yeah, and I think, but then you look at that Liverpool defence, mate, and the midfield, and maybe they need a manager like that. Maybe they need a Diego Simeone to give them a bit of grit and a bit of organisation. Because honestly, mate, right, that Real Madrid game on Tuesday could have been about 10. They were all over the place. And that's not, and by the way, that's not the first time. They've lost twice to Brighton 3-0, haven't they? Oh, they certainly lost once 3-0, and I think they lost, and I think both.
I think we play them soon at Anfield, so that'll be
good. Well, I think that's coming up very soon. And like I got to say, I think if United were to go, and I do think that's the sort of game, by the way, where they'll turn up because of what the game is.
Yeah,
and it'll end up. They could even end up winning at Anfield.
Get turned over.
But if they don't get their press right and they don't get their tactics right, because Ten Hag will have some sort of plan to play against them. If they get embarrassed by United, I think that'll be Klopp done. I think they'll sack him.
Yeah, that won't.
Because I think that's the one game they won't accept.
Getting beat 2 or 3-0 at Anfield off United, that won't be. Yeah.
Like the fans and the board, I think, will accept it from Brighton and they'll accept it from whatever, all these Madrid, whoever. They won't accept United, who are obviously on the up at the moment. They won't accept getting humiliated at Anfield by United. I think that's the one game they've got to make sure if they want Klopp to stay around. But then is the question then, just lastly on Liverpool, has Klopp lost the dressing room?
No.
So is it just a case of they got an aging squad? Who would you keep? If you're Klopp, which players were you absolutely keeping? And which players, just from generally, which ones would you straight away think, right?
He's getting rid of all the old ones. Henderson,
would you keep Van Dijk?
Henderson. Van Dijk could go. Mate, you've got to know when to cut the cord. He's finished.
Salah?
I'd keep Salah. So I'd keep Henderson. You got to think, and you got to pull some money in as well. So some shock value. People will be shocked when I say it, but Henderson. Thiago, too weak.
I've not been impressed with him.
Milner.
Yeah,
to get some money in, I'd sell Trent Alexander. He can't defend.
Yeah. So the only difference to all that I would personally get rid of is I would sell Salah, because I think at the moment there's quite a high number of really good young forwards who are either available or would be available.
If you get the right money for him, yeah, probably.
So, like, I guarantee someone like Chelsea or PSG would pay 100 million for Salah.
He's not going to go back to Chelsea, is he?
But he'd go to Paris, mate, for 100 million.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they could really invest that by an Osman or a Sesko. They would. 100% they would. No. Mate, you're telling me that if they had the opportunity to play, because it looks like either Mbappe or Neymar's going to go.
Yeah,
So they're going to want to bring in a big name.
I suppose. If you get a good
could
price
have
for Mbappe, yeah.
And then they've got what's his face, Messi, Salah. That's the sort of players they look to sign. And I would sell him. Look, I know Liverpool fans will mostly disagree with that. I just don't think he's the player that he once was. He's starting to age. He's lost half a yard. But look, on the other side, he's still their best player. He still score you goals. And I think if the rest of the team is better, you would see a better Salah. But he doesn't look happy at the moment. And who could blame him? How much of it was Liverpool terrible and Madrid just were very good, particularly in the second half?
It was a bit of both, mate, wasn't it?
Okay.
It was just a bit of both.
I do love Carlo Ancelotti, I got to say. He's one of my favourites.
Yeah.
Like, he looks like a
I
mafia.
like some more after this week.
Juventus have scored twice against 10-man Nantes. Di Maria scored twice. He scored a hat-trick now.
Pogba played.
Is who? Pogba. I don't think he might be on the bench. I'll have a quick look now. But he hasn't played all since he signed from Avi.
No. Yeah.
There was even talk of him going like on loan somewhere, and I was like, Jesus. But yeah, that's madness that he hasn't played a game from all season. But I think United cut ties at the right time, mate. I think is fair to say. So we're going to talk about the Carabao Cup final on Sunday. We're going to go into a bit of detail with that, but I do want to just touch on the Sky Bet Championship. Gareth Ainsworth, mate, has left Wycombe to go to QPR. I think that is a tremendous appointment by them. He has done a wicked job at Wycombe. He's a good manager. Got his own sort of style of doing things. Very popular with the players. I know when I've had Joe Jacobson on, who plays for Wycombe, a couple of times, and we've chatted about him. Like, players got a load of respect for him. Really thorough in the way he goes about his business, and he's done a good job with no money. He's got him up a couple of times, and they've gone down because they haven't been able to compete over that long championship season, which so many teams do struggle with. I think he'll be, if QPR, if they give him time, I think it's a great appointment. But if they're going to just sack him after 11 games, then it's pointless.
Just have to wait and see, won't we?
Indeed, mate. Cardiff had a bit of a reprieve. They've won a couple of games, mate.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say,
Yes, I was watching it.
What did you think?
Yeah, when you score last minute like that, it's always good in it for the fans. The manager goes over to the crowd. Yeah.
Bit of a smash and grab, wasn't it?
Yeah. So
at home.
But it can set you up, games wins like that can set you up, mate.
Yeah, mate. And look, Reading have been a bogey team for Cardiff for years. So I think to get that last-minute winner against one team, which kind of can cause you problems, it's always good. And Reading have been quite good. I thought they did all right. They were pretty good against United in spells in the Cup. So I think it's a good result. And in the Championship, mate, it's just about getting those wins. Doesn't matter how, just by hook or crook, get the victories. Obviously, that's 2 on the bounce. Give them a bit of confidence. Unfortunately, Robinson, who's looked quite sharp in those 2 games, he's out for 5 games because he's got a hamstring problem. But the new signing, Caba, looks quite tasty. Just looks a bit creative. He's quite clever, very quick. They've got a couple of Welsh internationals on the bench as well, in Mark Harris and Ruben Corwell and stuff. So it's time for them to really step up now. People keep telling me that Ruben Corwell's the next Aaron Ramsey or the next this. He's this and that. He's got to show it, and he needs to show it whilst it matters, and it matters for Cardiff now. They've gone up a couple of places in the table. They'll be confident after 2 wins, but they are still banging the relegation zone. Huddersfield won. Blackpool won the other day. Wigan are unbeaten in 4 at the bottom of the table. So we're only 4 points ahead of Wigan at the bottom. Well, actually, all the teams in the relegation zone are on 31 and Cardiff are on 35. So, it's not job done because we've got a couple of wins. They've got to finish the job. We've talked in recent weeks, mate, about a certain Mr. Carrick. Another win for Middlesbrough. They are hot on the tails, mate, obviously, because they beat Sheffield United, and then Sheffield United have gone and lost again after that.
It was
So
at
it's now,
Sheffield United that as well, wasn't it?
yeah, it's down to 4 points now, the gap between Borough and Sheffield United. So whereas a few weeks ago it looked like Burnley and Sheffield United were running away with it, didn't it? Now suddenly Middlesbrough look like they could be the team, because there's always a team which...
I think Sheffield United got distracted by little old Wrexham.
Well, yeah, I think some of the players did, because I think it got under their skin. We talked about Billy Sharp, but I think there was probably a few others who didn't like the attention that Wrexham were getting, which to me is a bit childish to me. Like, get your job done, innit? Put them in their place on the pitch. Don't go moaning to the media. But yeah, look, Michael Carrick, he's extended Tommy Smith's deal. He's got them playing, mate. QPR are not difficult, not a difficult side to beat. They beat them comfortably in the end, 3-1. And it's just the way they play football. The movement off the ball is sensational. And, that comes from the manager and the coaches, doesn't it? It's those sort of those movements off the ball. That's coming from the coaching. So, very impressed. I think they are going to go up automatically the way things are looking. I think they'll catch. No, I don't think anyone's catching Burnley, because they're on 73.
No,
and
they and what I've seen, they've been far the best.
Yeah,
above
me, absolutely, and they should be. The teams which come down from the Premier League these days should be, unless they lose all their best players, they should be.
They've kind of lost their best players as well. No, Ben Mee, Tarkowski. There's your back two centre halves. They've got
2 big players, isn't it?
McNeil, he went. Who else went? Weghorst, he was gone. So there's a few that's gone, mate.
Yeah,
I
agree.
There's a few that's gone.
Could that company and Bellamy as a coaching duo, they did well in Belgium, and they've reunited at Burnley, and they're doing it again. So you've got to say that it's working for them. And look, you look at the way, like I was just about to say what Reece has just said there. He says, great credit to Burnley, because they've completely overhauled their style of play. And that's what you've got to think of, is for years, Burnley have been like that, very organised, direct, play off the long.
I've got to stop you here, mate. I've got to disagree, because I've watched Burnley in the last two or 3 years against United, and they do get the ball down and play. So, I think that's just a myth with some of Sean Dyche's teams in Burnley, because when I've watched them at Old Trafford as well, when you think they'd sit back, they've took it to United, and I think I think it was a couple of years ago, they drew them 2-2. So it's,
I'll take it. I'll accept it. I think a manager like Sean Dyche will plan. Like, he'll have a really detailed research plan and tactics in the way he goes about his business, and he will plan his tactics and his side around the players he's got available to him. So if his squad is full of kind of players who are more suited to playing long ball and then play off the scraps and in the channels and that sort of thing, and being organised at the back, that's what he'll do. But maybe, I think, if you take out the Merseyside derby, since his start at Everton, with more technical players, shall we say, they've tried to play football. They played some quite good stuff since he's come in at Everton. They were dreadful in the Merseyside derby, in fairness, but apart from that, they've played some quite good stuff since he's come in. So maybe you are right, mate. I don't know, but certainly in terms of the Championship, they have been
very
way. Well, I didn't want to say, mate. I didn't want to make you blush, but So we got a Carabao Cup final, mate, on Sunday. Very big game for both teams.
Big game, massive cup.
I think. Look, no, I think it's big, not because of what the tournament is it? It's good because it's big because for Newcastle, it's their first trophy in Lord knows how long, and it also, I think
it's first final since '99 when they played us.
He'll have a big say, mate, on how much patience Eddie Howe gets as well. He's doing a tremendous job. He hasn't spent loads and loads of money like everyone thought they were going to. He's been right up there in the top 4. I do think they're struggling a bit with the top 4 now. I think
always going to happen.
Yeah, we talked about it, didn't we? it was going to be very difficult for him to hold on.
And I think the Newcastle fans are realistic and know that. You know, I think if you said to him this time last year, you'll be 5th and you'll be in a final.
Taking that all day, isn't he?
They'd have bit your hand off. Yeah,
absolutely, mate.
As long as they're in the mix, you know, they're all going to London, big day out. They haven't had that, like I say, since 1999 when they played us and when we won the treble. So, plug again. So yeah, it'd be a good day. Be a good day. Be a good crowd. Yeah, really, really noisy. It should be a good game. Unlucky for Newcastle that some of the best players are out because Pope is a big miss.
He's been one of the best.
Keeper's going to come in that's not played all season with a back four.
Hasn't played for 3 years.
Yeah, but
2 or 3 years.
He's obviously played, but I mean, played with these players.
No, he hasn't played a first team game for I think it was.
No, but I know
he
would have played under 23 games. He'd have played.
No,
this wouldn't be his first game since fucking being injured. I'm sure he would have played games before. I mean, playing games with his back four.
Yeah,
it's difficult. And like you say, 3 years out. But I'm sure he'd have been back training. He'd have been back rehabbing, and like I say, they've had a few under 23 games. So
funny though, right? Because Loris Karius, if he's the one who gets picked, he was awful for Liverpool as a keeper, and like
well, didn't he the one that messed up the final for him?
Yeah, he was to an almost comical level, like he was that bad. And when I saw that he was going to have to play, I was like, "Oh my good god!"
Well, the keeper,
he'll end up having like an unbelievable game. You just know it.
Your reserve keeper was on loan for us and played in the Carabao Cup, so can't play.
Mad,
so if we win, he gets a medal. If he loses,
he gets a medal, and he gets 2 medals.
No.
Because wouldn't he get? Oh no, he wouldn't get a win.
If he loses, he doesn't get a medal. If United win, he gets a medal.
It's crazy, you know.
Yeah.
But I think Newcastle will be hoping that this Barcelona game this evening goes to extra time, penalties, and the rest of it, won't they? They'll be hoping United get absolutely drained and have the hardest game possible. How do you see it going? Because when I saw that Nick Pope was out, I just thought that must have given the United camp a big lift, because Nick Pope's been one of, if not the best keeper in the Premier League this season, certainly in the top 3. So for him to be missing, I think is massive.
You need your best players in, don't you?
But mate, honestly, I look at the way United have been playing, and I look at the way Newcastle have played in recent weeks. I look at the way, like, for instance, I noticed Sabitza's not in the starting lineup tonight. I think Sabitzer will start Sunday with Casemiro in midfield. The way United are like a well-oiled machine. But the one thing which Ten Hag has got right time and time again is if it isn't working in-game, he will change the tactics, he'll move players around, or he'll bring someone off the bench who will then go and score a goal or set up a goal or whatever. It's one of them things where everything seems to be clicking for United at the moment. And for Newcastle, they're having a bit of a wobble. But, of course, it's a one-off game. You just don't know. It's a big game. United have got a bit of experience with finals. Obviously, De Gea has played there. There's a few of them who've played at Wembley before. So I think you'd think United are more likely to be not overawed by the occasion, I would have thought.
No, it's whoever plays. The 2 good teams, mate. Whoever plays better on the day. Obviously, United will be a little bit favourites because of the form and Newcastle's form. But in reality, it's just a 50-50 game. Whoever performs better wins.
Yeah, and I think, what's your prediction for that game, mate? Actually,
I think it's going to be a close game. I think United will win it 2-1.
Okay. I do think tonight will have a bearing on it. I think if United go out tonight, I think that brings them down a little bit. But it can also have the opposite effect where it makes them even more determined to when United have slipped up this season since that that initial couple of games, they've always bounced back. Ten Hag seems to have got them going.
It'd be a lot more difficult though. You win this, you're buoyant, you're in a good mood, you're going. But that could easily work against you as well. So Yeah,
I got to be honest, mate.
In reality, you'd want to win this game and go into this one thinking, right, come on, we've won this one. We're into the next round. Let's stay in all four competitions. Let's win this one, put this one to bed, and then we can concentrate on the next one.
Yeah, it's that momentum, isn't it, of just keep winning. And also,
like
mate, I think,
like we talked about before with the treble, you know, if we had gone out in that semi-final against Arsenal, which we easily could have, you know, they played well. Obviously, we had 10 men for a long, long time, over like 60 minutes. They missed the penalty on the 90th minute. Then it goes into injury time, and then we win that game. It just the momentum. It just took us. I don't think loads of games that season that you could think, oh yeah, it's definitely ours this year.
Yeah. Also, I do believe, mate, that if if United come out on top tonight against Barcelona, I think psychologically that gives them a lift in terms of not just winning the game and staying in the tournament, but just beating Barcelona generally. I think psychologically that gives you a lift because, you know, Barcelona are one of the biggest teams in the league. They haven't lost many games this year.
And
you saw the lift they got
as well. They tasted it last week. They know what they're all about. So they'll think, you know what, at home, we can have these. They just got to perform. I'm sure they will. We'll just have to wait and see.
If Barcelona play like they did last week, mate, I think it'll be 4-5-2 to United or 4-3 or something.
Because Martinez is back. He wasn't playing last week as well. So
yeah. I'm a bit disappointed not to see Sabitzer in there alongside Casemiro. I felt like that was the partnership which would have really been the best. But I understand also why he plays Fred. Like, he trusts him and the rest of it. Right.
Well. He's got really good legs. So Sabitzer, but you know, they work well together. If something works, just keep at it.
Yeah, Anthony's back on the bench tonight, and Sabitzer's on the bench, and they've got Garnacho on the bench. Like, they've got some really dangerous players. Yeah, like if they need a goal late on, you know, they've got Anthony, Sabitzer, Pellistri, Alanga, and Garnacho. So, and they've got a couple of midfielders in there as well who could shore it up. So they look on paper set, but it's Barcelona, mate, isn't it? You know.
We'll have to wait and see, won't we?
We will.
5 minutes. 5 minutes. What's
right.
Going on?
Predictions quickly. Leicester, Arsenal at Leicester.
Say that again.
Leicester versus Arsenal at Leicester.
2-1 Leicester.
I've gone 3-2 Arsenal. West Ham at home to Nottingham Forest.
West Ham home to Nottingham Forest.
I've gone 2-1 West Ham. West Ham.
He's under the cosh at the minute, isn't he?
He is, but they're fairly solid. I think West Ham at home.
1-0. 1-0 West Ham.
Bournemouth at home to Manchester City. Manchester City were just up and down and up and down.
3-1 City.
I gone 3-0 that one. Liverpool are away to Crystal Palace. Tricky one because Palace are good at home and Liverpool have been all over the shop. I have gone 1-0 to Liverpool.
Say again.
Liverpool away to Crystal Palace, mate. I've gone 1-0 Liverpool. Just
Palace 2-1.
Shout. Spurs at home to Chelsea. 2-1 Spurs for me.
What's that crap on now? 1-1.
And then finally the Carabao Cup. You already said the new 2-1 United. And then to finish, mate, what do you think the score will be and the result will be tonight in the Barcelona United game?
3-1 United.
Oof. Go on. I think United will win 2-0. Don't think Barcelona will score, but I'll be proved wrong 5 minutes in. As always, guys, girls, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. A bit of a quicker show tonight because we want to go watch the football. I'm also busting for the loo. Appreciate it. We'll be back next week, normal time. Check out some of the other shows and content which will be coming out over the next few days and stuff like that. Loads of good stuff. Loads of interesting chats and podcasts. Spread the word. See you next week. Nice one.